Welcome to This Week in Real Estate with Jonathan Harmon and Bryan Nail, your local experts on all things real estate in Middle Tennessee. Listen in as they discuss the current state of the market, the latest trends, and have a little fun while doing it. We do want to say the opinions voiced on this podcast are for general information only and not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individuals.
Bryan was just coaching me on not talking with my hands so much because it blocks my face apparently. And I said, people would probably rather look at my hand than my face. I mean, bless my heart. I have a face for radio. That's what I've known for a long time.
Bless your heart, bless my heart, bless Trent's heart. If you're watching this show, bless
your heart.
Market movers and headlines.
He's just jumping right in. Hold on a second, because what I was going to say is this is the first time that we've been together in several weeks.
Maybe a month.
It's probably pretty close. Yeah, it's pretty close.
Great to see
So welcome back. Yes,
to you too.
Man, I would rather have been here last week.
I bet.
Yeah, but we got it all fixed, you know. Listen, I have gained so much life experience over the last couple months. I can advise you on all kinds of things.
Save some of that for a pro tip later in the show. I bet you got a list of them.
Good Lord, yeah.
So last week, while Jonathan was away, I talked about inflation a little bit, and so we said we'd get into a little bit more today, and that's relevant because we got some inflation data in the last 24 hours that the Fed is going to continue to monitor. The Fed meeting on Wednesday or Tuesday, whenever this came out, that Kevin Warsh is a new Fed chair. And,
Can I just interject right there?
Yeah, absolutely.
So my grandmother, when she talks about doing laundry, she says she's going to wash some clothes. And every single time I hear his name, I hear my grandmother talking about washing stuff.
Yeah.
It's painful.
Yeah. I've had the same thought. Wash is kind of like the old Southern way of washing the dishes, washing the clothes, washing the...
Don't put the baby out in the wash, you know?
That's good stuff. So inflation.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, bring it back.
I digress. Just so tickled to be here.
Expectation was 3.7% for the CPE. That's exactly where it came in. So that's the PCE. I get these acronyms messed up.
PCE. Don't get it confused though with PCP.
That's a different thing.
Yes,
it
all
might
together.
Be what we need.
There are days where I'm like, man.
Oh man. No, it came in at 3.7%, which is exactly where the forecasts were. So Kevin Warsh said, there's no magic wand that the Fed can wave and make this go away. It's going to take some time. Of course, their target's 2%. And so to get it there, it's not an overnight thing, which if you are waiting for Donald Trump's new Fed chair to come in and lower rates, he's telling you when he says that, it's not going to happen overnight. There's no, hey, new guys in the office, let's get rates lower. That's not how this works.
Well, and the reality is that is probably the worst possible thing that he could do.
It is.
If you really want to see us have out of control inflation, if you want to see a dozen eggs cost $10, then let's just go ahead and drop interest rates 1.5%.
And I think it's important too to when we're looking at inflation to think about month over month, but also year over year. And so if last year's number was a big number, and so this year you look in the month over month is not very high, you still have this big number that was there last year. And so if you're hanging on to that rate, then you're still accelerating.
Mm-hmm.
We really want to be seeing some steps down. It's like if taken from one step to the next, instead of just being a normal stair step, it's like doing a box jump. Mm-hmm. And then you look behind you, and then there was a ladder put in on the step behind you because you've got this difference in the basis.
Yeah, and I think that's also a couple of other contextual things with what you're saying. His goal is to get it down to 2% a year. Historical average, it fluctuates between 2 and 4, probably right around that 3, 2.8, whatever. That's the historical average. But understand that what they're talking about is not, to your point, they're not talking about pulling rates down. are pulling inflation down, deflating.
Right.
They're talking about slowing down inflation. So we're still going to see, if at a 2%, only 2%, right?
Yeah.
Air quotes on that. We're going to still see prices of things rise on average by 2%. So we're not talking about stuff getting cheaper.
Right. So
we're just talking about it slowing down, getting more expensive.
So if a gallon of milk, and this, I'm going to show how little grocery shopping I do in our household, but if a gallon of milk costs,
I cannot wait.
costs $4.50 today.
Almond milk, maybe.
Okay, so whatever.
Have you ever wondered how they milk an almond?
It's not like if we get inflation back to 2%, we wouldn't expect that gallon of milk to go down to $4 next month. It's gonna hang on to that, and it's gonna be $4.60.
And maybe within individual items, you'll see some come down,
and that's huge. And that's why some of the differences in these inflation reports. You got inflation reports that track the overall market basket of goods,
right?
And then you've got
that's the CPI, right?
Right, and then you've got the PCE, which is going to break it down more, and so and that's going, and the CPI that is going to get adjusted annually, like once a year, and so they're just looking at the market, in the market basket of goods, how much is going into healthcare, how much is going into
to buy these items. It costs this now, and it costs this now, like later. Right. And that difference there is the CPI.
Whereas the PCE is going to tell you that, like, and we talked about this a little bit last week, okay, so they're spending, $750 a month in groceries, but, that's going to tell you that there's more being spent on chicken and less on beef because the cost of beef is going up.
Yeah.
And so
my budget is still $750 on groceries.
Right.
But instead of buying the name brand, fill in the blank, I'm going to buy the store brand,
right?
Or I'm going to switch over to Aldi and buy the cheaper brand or whatever.
Another way to another example of your CPI, like let's say 3 different people go into the hospital to get an MRI, and you ask them how much it costs them. And you got one says, well, it cost me $3,000. Another one is on a different healthcare plan and it costs them $1,500. And then the next one, they get it free because of whatever kind of insurance they have. It didn't cost me anything. So one person says it was $0, one person says $1,500, one person says $3,000. You ask the hospital, how much does it cost to get an MRI?
$10,000.
It's $1,500. That's what they're looking at. Yes, because insurance is covering a difference, but they look at it as a whole. This is what it costs.
So interestingly enough, and this is not what you're talking about, but for many years I was uninsured, and by choice, just so you know. Okay. I participated in a healthcare cost sharing, like a ministry type program.
Yeah.
And basically I was self-insured through like a pool of other self-insureds. And so we would help each other out. It's actually a fascinating thing. Yeah. And at the time, this is when the Affordable Care Act had just been passed. And this was one of the few exemptions for the mandated health insurance. And I had to get and I can't remember now what it was, an MRI or a whatever, CT, whatever. I had to get some kind of magnetic test done on myself, some imaging done, right? And so I looked it up and I called 5 different places here in Murfreesboro, okay, to say, how much does it cost? And every one of them started with, well, it depends on what your insurance is. I was like, no, how much does it cost for me to just come in there and get it done, and I'm going to write you a check that day, right? Would you believe 3 out of 5 couldn't answer that question at all?
I had no idea.
They couldn't answer it. They couldn't look it up. They had no idea. And so it's interesting. You just kind of hit a nerve a little bit with me.
Well, there's a whole nother conversation about healthcare, right? And insurance and insurance reform.
They don't know their own cost, just so you know.
We got insurance reform. 15 years ago, what we needed was real healthcare reform, but instead we got insurance reform.
And some would argue that it wasn't really reform.
Yeah. So we can have that conversation offline in a show that's not related to real estate.
Yeah.
So
it's all related though, Brian.
It all ties to how much does it cost to buy a house and what's the most my monthly payment. I was going to say, I had a conversation with a client yesterday, and another lender had told her that the Fed meeting was going on, and that rates were going to go up. And I was like, well, there's a whole lot of things to unpack with this. You got very top line information. So yesterday, going into the meeting, you had the market was kind of betting for there to be a 30% chance of a rate hike, but 9 out of 10 traders would have told you that they didn't think the Fed was going to raise rates. So the market had priced in higher rates, but nobody really thought that the Fed was going to raise rates, and so it created this dichotomy where a larger percentage of the market was going to be surprised by what the Fed did than normal, and that created this kind of powder keg of a potentially volatile day yesterday. And after the Fed meeting, we did see rates go up and 10-year Treasury yield go up a little bit, but today it's flat, maybe a little bit better. So what I think's happened here is that the Fed has signaled, hey, there's probably a really good chance that the next time they meet in September for them to raise the target funds rate. So as we've said on this show so many times, mortgage rates aren't waiting for that to happen. The investors had already kind of started, and Marsh even said this, the market's kind of doing our job for us on long-term rates. You're seeing 10-year Treasury going up, and kind of without them having to raise the target funds rate, the long-term bond market is already starting to kind of move up and price in the likelihood that they will. So they're getting the benefit, the Fed's getting the benefit of that probably slowing the economy down without having to raise rates, which means that, for people who have HELOCs or people who have credit card balances, they don't really necessarily see their rates going up. So their household expenditures, their household budget doesn't change that like it would if they had actually raised rates a quarter, because then all of a sudden your HELOC's going from 8 to 8.25, or your credit cards are going from 16.5 to 16.75. So the market's kind of doing some of the Fed's heavy lifting for it with these long-term 10-year yield and the and mortgage rates lifting a little bit without the Fed having to actually raise their target funds rate.
So, I mean, I'm very simple here. Is that good or is that bad?
I think it is just what it is. It's if you have HELOC debt, if you have credit card debt, if you need to buy a car or do something that's reset or going to be impacted by short-term rates, then that's good. If you're trying to buy a house, that's not good, because you've seen interest rates go up over the last 45, 60 days. If you have a pile of money and you're looking for a safe place to put it, it's good, because you can put it into a CD or put it into a bond
money
fund and money market, and you get a little bit of a yield on it. So it just depends on where you are, if that's good or bad or ugly or whatever.
It's like the classic question, how's the market? I mean, man, there's so many facets to that.
Where are you in the market?
Which facet are you on in the market?
Yeah, absolutely. There's another thing that I want to say, and then we can move on from this conversation about rates and stuff, is that the headline right now is mortgage rates are the highest they've been in a year. And my guy Nick Owens runs our secondary lock desk over at Premise. He made a great point last Friday, and he was like, if you're looking for some good news, here's the good news. Yes, the headline is that rates are the highest they've been in a year, but look back over the last year and you'll see that that's the longest stretch we've had since 2023 of rates being under 7%. So we've just come off of a pretty solid run, and the only thing that's really driving rates up, if you look at an oil futures chart and put the 10-year Treasury over that, outside of a couple of exceptions where there was some inflation data that moved bonds lower than oil futures, they're lockstep with each other. And so if we can get oil futures down, mortgage rates and 10-year Treasury should fall with that. So we're really, this is all just being driven by oil at this point right now.
And so in that regard, how much of that is impacted by our presence in Iran?
Oh, 100%. I mean, that is absolutely what's doing this. And so, and think about, well, what does oil futures have to do with rates? Why does the 10-year Treasury follow oil prices right now?
Everything is driven.
Oil, how much are you paying to fill up your tank, but also how much does it cost to fill up a semi and move goods across the country,
or a container ship,
or airplanes, and all of these things that use fossil fuels and use oil to move around the country, move goods around the country, all those things. So if oil's high,
and the raw materials,
that's inflation. Oh yeah, all the plastics and everything.
Well, and even just like extracting whatever mineral out of the ground, or harvesting the vegetables, or whatever, literally everything is impacted.
The cost of everything goes up when fuel is high
at multiple steps.
Yeah. And so that's why it's so inflationary, and that's why the 10-year Treasury is following oil futures so closely right now.
Yep. Eggs are higher when oil is higher.
What? Yeah.
It's crazy. I know.
I think you had a little bit of information for the market movers as well.
I do, and with that, we're also this will extend over to some pro tip stuff. So had somebody ask about just some general timelines from start to finish for real estate, and me and you can kind of tag team this. It'll be kind of neat to put it together from all perspectives, and then we'll switch on the pro tip for the second question that we got. So general timeline, it does vary a little bit for person to person, but basically it's going to follow the same rhythm. Okay. So let's go from a buyer's perspective. So from a buyer's perspective, this is where it varies a little bit, is at the very beginning with some consultations and things like that. So if you call me first, then we're going to sit down, we're going to talk about, why is it that you're considering buying? What is it that you want? All of that kind of stuff. So the practical stuff, but then also some of the philosophical and the emotional side of it, right? Why are you moving? What is your motivation? And don't tell me it's just, we need another room. Well, why do you need another room? So I'm going to ask why a lot, right? And then out of that conversation, I'm also going to make sure that you have spoken with one of two things. Either you have enough cash to purchase whatever home it is, and you've spoken to whomever it is that manages your cash, and it's not going to be penalized or whatever, or you've spoken to a lender. And if you haven't spoken to a lender yet, I'm going to give you Brian's name and number, and maybe you've already spoken with him, or maybe you've got somebody else that you want to use mistakenly. And anyway, Brian just smiled on that one. But anyways, and we're going to make sure that piece of it is in place. And we want to make sure that piece of it is in place before we go start looking, because it's not just about what you can afford, but it's really more about what you want to afford, right? So Brian might be able to pre-approve you with the cash that you have and whatever for a purchase price of, say, $500,000. Right. But when you take your cash, you plug it in, you put it all together, you look at what that payment's going to be, you might say, ooh, that's not really what I want to do. So, Brian, this is where that payment's going to be. How do I get my payment to this number instead? And so Brian's going to then kind of back into those numbers and say, okay, instead of 500, you probably ought to look at, let's cap you at 385 or 410 or whatever, right? Now we've got something that's going to fit your lifestyle, keep your lifestyle where you want it, and we've got guidance.
Or sometimes it's not going to fit your lifestyle, and that just means you have to make a decision.
That's it.
Because just like Kevin Morse, there's no magic wand. I can't make this loan amount at this interest rate give you a payment here.
And I can't make a $400,000 house look like a $500,000 house.
Right.
I mean, sometimes I can, but not really.
Yeah. I heard somebody say the other day, like, you look at a $300,000 house and you think, man, it looks great. And you think these $300,000 houses look great until you go and you look at a $400,000 house. And then all of a sudden the $300,000 houses don't look so good anymore.
That is exactly why we want to get these numbers out of the way first, because if I start showing you $500,000 houses and you find 5 or 6 or 7 or 20 of them that you love, and then all of a sudden we need to back that number down to 400. You just made your own job and my job extremely difficult.
Right.
Not impossible, but extremely difficult.
Until you take that reality pill, it's going to be difficult. And so I think that's an important step in that process. And I talk with a lot of people all the time. And I'm like, hey, look, what you might need to do is you might need to go look at some $450,000 houses and then go see some $500,000 houses. Because I'm telling you, you can buy a $500,000 house. I know that you don't want the payment to be that extra $100 a month, but $150 a month, whatever it might be. But go look at some of those in that price point, and go look at some of these others and decide. Because this is.
Yeah, is it worth it?
And this is where I come in, or is a little bit different than what a lot of people might say. To me, it's home. It's where you're living your life. Is it, and I think about $150 a month in today's economy, and just the reality is that's not a lot of money for most households. Now, for some it is, and $150 is $150. But
can you squeeze it out of your lattes?
Where can you find that?
Can you buy $10 bottles of wine instead of $25 bottles of wine a couple times a month?
Or just don't drink as much, or whatever. Or really, is it just it's more of a psychological thing than it is anything else? And I think a lot of the times that's what it is. And so for those people, I'm never going to encourage them to take on the higher payment without this step. And that step is, there's two bits of advice I'd give. And one of them you've heard me say a bunch of times, is save the difference. Hey, spend the next 2 or 3 months living like you have a payment at this number and see how that feels. And then you'll know how comfortable it is or not. And then two, the next thing is go look at some houses at this price. Go look at some houses at the other price.
But let's start with the cheaper ones, please.
And let's see. I don't know if it really matters which one you start with. This is what
it matters. I promise.
This is what our life is. Not when you're talking about $150 a month payment difference. I'm not talking about like a $600,000 house versus a $400,000 house.
Well, but even in this current market, the difference in a 400 and a 500 is stark.
Yeah,
it can be.
And so just go look. You're right. You're absolutely right. But go look at some of those and see. For us do we want to live here and save $150 a month in payment, or do we want to have this as our home where the payment's going to be $150 a month more?
And I think it's important to throw in that when we start talking about differences in prices of homes, there's so many factors that affect the prices of a home. And so you've got to figure out what the trade-off is, right? And so, a $400,000 house in Manchester might look like a $525,000 house in Murfreesboro.
Yeah.
Right? And so the trade-off there is not necessarily the house, but it's the location. Yeah. Well, what does the location mean? Is it closer to work? Is it further from work? Do you like the schools? Do you not like the schools? Does this community have opportunity to grow more than this community does? Is it an older home? Is it a newer home? What does that mean? Does that even matter to you? Do you want the challenge of having something to fix all the time? Right? And not the challenge, but maybe you just truly enjoy that. Great. My point is that there's lots and lots and lots of factors as we start looking at that. And so the key here is, and same with what Bryan is saying, we need to have that conversation because those conversations yield a game plan.
It's hard to believe this conversation started from a timeline topic.
Well, but this is the single most important part of the timeline.
Yeah.
Now, here's the other thing. This conversation, this initial one, is meant to start the conversation. It's meant to give you some things to think about. And here's the fun part. You've probably thought about all this stuff, but maybe not in the same context as us actually shopping for the vessel, the home that allows this lifestyle, that allows all of these different, access to different things or whatever, right? So you've dreamed about this stuff, right? You've envisioned it. You've pictured what this house looks like. Everybody has. So now we're actually trying to make that a reality. And part of that is marrying the dream to the market, if that makes sense. And a big chunk of that is, can I afford it? Do I want to afford it? Right? And those are very different questions. Yeah. Can I and do I want to? Not the same thing.
That's very true.
And so that conversation is probably the single most important conversation that we can have. Right? And it's an ongoing conversation, and it evolves, and we start looking at stuff, and maybe the market dries up, maybe the market opens up, whatever, right?
So from a timeline standpoint, what should someone expect, given a couple of different scenarios of timing, not timing to get the best rate, because you can't do that.
Not going to happen.
You're either going to get lucky or you're going to get unlucky. But from a time,
or you're just going to be neutral.
And
It
most
just
of
is
the
what it
time,
is.
that's what it is,
Yeah.
right? Most of the time, it's neutral, and between 1 week to the next 2 to 3 weeks, next month or so, it's not going to be that big of a difference,
Right.
It's just not, even in a volatile market, it's just not that volatile. So anyway, that being said, from a timing standpoint, let me give you an example of somebody who is buying their first home. They're renting. Their lease is up in October. It's August 1st. Where should they be in the process? How long?
We should have that conversation right now.
Okay. Why?
Because it depends. There's a lot of factors, right? I tell people all the time, there's 3 things when we're looking at house. I can get you exactly what you're looking for. I can get you a screaming deal on it, and I can get it for you quick, right? And almost always I can get 2 of those 3. Okay. It's pretty rare to get all 3.
Yeah.
But I can usually get you 2 of them. So then as we're unpacking this, what is the most important thing? The most important thing is it's got to have this, 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 and this. And I've got a list of features that my house has to have. Cool. No problem. It's going to take us some time to find it at the deal that you want, right? Or now I got to have it right now. I've got 2 weeks to move. Awesome. You're going to have to settle on some things, right? Or you're going to pay more for it. One
And
or
the
the other.
closer you get to that lease expiring and having to sign a new lease, the more you're constricting that time.
Yep.
And
Which
hey,
is why this conversation has to keep happening and it keeps evolving.
and if you're shopping for a house in August, let's say by the end of the month you find that one, you write an offer on it. If you're going to close in 30 days, which is kind of standard, we can close faster. You can take longer. The market and the individual circumstances of the seller and what their timeline needs to be are going to play into that.
Sure.
But if you need to close because on October 1st you don't have a place to live, you need to close in September, then you really need to be shopping right now. Okay, let's say that lease expires in November, or you have all the way through October to move. You don't want to get doubled up on payment.
We can
But
still
guess what?
start shopping.
If you close in September, your first payment is going to be due November 1st.
Yep.
So now would be your perfect timeline. All right, let's give you another scenario. Somebody who,
And let me throw this out there, okay? The longer in this particular market, the longer we have, the better you're gonna do. Now, there is a tipping point, okay? There is a moment where you have too long, and so you sit on decisions, and then you lose some of those, right? Sometimes, like you know the song, right? You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, okay? And sometimes the action is what's rewarded, and sometimes the inaction is what's rewarded. And so my job as your guide through this, as your coach, if you will, is to say, no, if this is the one, pull the trigger. And I need to ask the questions to get you to the point where this is the one.
yeah,
Right? Or, it's okay. It could be a one,
Yeah.
but not the one.
yeah.
You know?
Okay, so another scenario: somebody is a homeowner and they're wanting to upgrade their home. They need more space. They need a bigger place
Sure.
to live. They currently have a mortgage. That needs to be sold before they can buy the next house. What's their timeline look like?
Oh, okay. So you answered one of my questions. Do you have to sell in order to buy?
Yeah.
Okay. And in the majority of folks, that is the case, and that's fine. We need to get your house on the market. We need to address the pricing of that house and make sure that we're right. Okay. And this market is so screwy, y'all. Like, we could put it on the market and it could sell today, and it could take 100 days. It just depends, right? And so our number one goal is to get that house as market ready as humanly possible and get it there. Okay. How much money do you have to get it fixed up? All the deferred maintenance that you've put off, we need to get that stuff done. We need to get it marketed, and we need to be ready for it to go. Okay. Now, when we get it, let's say that we put it out there and 3 days after we list it, we get an offer. It's a great offer. We take it. Okay. What can we do to help offset some of those other issues? Well, we can ask that buyer to give us 60 days to close, and maybe they can, maybe they can't, right? So everybody's got their set of circumstances that we have to navigate around. The other conversation that we need to have when we're getting ready to get your house on the market is, do you have a short-term backup plan? Do you have somewhere to go, right? Do you know, can you live in someone's basement? Can you move in with mom? Is there somewhere that you can go short-term? And for me, short-term is like 3 months or less. I know that sounds like a very long time, and in
You
some
blink
circumstances that is an eternity. I get it.
You blink and it passes.
Yeah, but that is the price that you pay sometimes in order to get exactly where you want to go. Or are you just not picky? And there's, maybe we go ahead and look at a few houses, and there's 20 on the market right now that would be just fine. Okay, well then let's do this.
I think that's one of the big differences between this market and where we were when rates were so low. And everyone said, "Oh, that this is such a great market." It was it was a really tough market because in that market you would go and you would write an offer that's contingent on the sale of your home, and nobody would take your offer because of the home sale contingency, even though everyone knew you could put your house on the market and get an offer in 24 hours.
But they also had 10 other offers that didn't have it. So that was one fear that was eliminated.
I know. But now,
because what if it didn't?
But now in a market where home sale contingencies are accepted, it's actually taken a while to sell a house.
I know, it's crazy, right?
And so you see transactions. I think any lender, any realtor, we've all experienced this in the last couple of years. Is that you have deals who the contracts expire because they haven't been able to sell their current residence. And so your advice now in this market is to actually go ahead and get the house on the market. And guess what? You said this. When you get an offer, maybe it's going to give us enough of a window to buy something and close simultaneously. Maybe you have to go somewhere for a few months. But your best advice would probably be to go ahead and get your house on the market and get it sold, and then your fingers crossed that when you hit a contract on your house, there's going to be a platter of houses to choose from.
Well, listen, here's the other thing, and a lot of agents won't tell you this. They might not even know that you can do it. Just like there's a home sale contingency, we can build in a home buy contingency from the seller's perspective. Hey, I'm not selling you my house if within the next 30 days, 45 days, I can't find somewhere acceptable to move to.
Yeah.
We can build that in.
Yeah.
No reason you can't.
Yeah.
Now, will a buyer take that? I don't know.
Yeah.
But is that the best thing for you? Maybe.
Well, and
if you don't have a backup plan, we need to do that.
And that's where, a good real estate advice comes into play. How do you protect your clients? How do you put them in a position where they don't end up homeless and having to go sign an apartment lease somewhere? Rent a house for a period of time.
So we've done the hard part, right? This is all the hard part. We're under contract now to purchase a home. Okay. And here's the thing. Again, I'm reading the room the best I can with that home purchase. Okay. And sometimes it makes sense to give that seller 45 days. Sometimes it makes sense if the house is already empty, they're carrying 2 mortgages. We can come in with a lower offer, but we can close it. Bryan can close a loan. You're going to hate that I'm going to say this, but legally he can close a loan in 8 days.
That's true.
Okay.
I don't hate that. That's true.
Realistically,
I love that I can.
Realistically, it's probably 10 days, right? Is about your shortest window, realistically, because you got weekends and several other things. And I'm saying calendar days. I'm not saying business days, right? So realistically, it's like 10 days. Well, if you walk into an empty house, you know that they've already relocated. You know that they're carrying 2 mortgages, right? You've read the room. You know this. Maybe the other agents told you this. Dude, if I can solve your problem, seller, in 10 days, and you're done with this thing, what's that worth to you? It might be worth $5,000 or $10,000 or $15,000 worth of closing costs.
Yeah.
So it's a trade-off at that point. Does that make sense? And sometimes that seller has sat on a price for a long time because maybe they've dropped the price a couple times. They're not getting any bites. So they're like, fine, we're just going to sit here instead of tipping our hand. Think of it like a poker match, right? We're going to sit here and wait, and we'll see what offer we get. Because it doesn't make any sense to keep chasing the number down.
Right.
So we don't know exactly what's going on in the background until somebody asks the right questions.
I've seen some people come in with lowball offers here lately and just get told no. Like it is absolutely a buyer's market right now. It is absolutely a market in which you can write a lowball offer, but when you do that, you need to listen to your real estate agent. And if that realtor is telling you this is maybe a little too low, you can throw it out there and see what happens. I've seen some where nothing happens and they just move on to another home. I've seen some where they reject it, but then all of a sudden, a couple days later, they come back with a counter. It's a wild market. I've seen some where they come in low, and guess what? The agents all of a sudden are asking for highest and best because they got 2 or 3 offers,
even if it's been on the market for 100 days.
Yeah.
So we had a situation, wrote an offer earlier guess it was this past weekend, and it was a low offer, intentionally. We wrote the offer, got a counter back. The counter was better than I expected. It wasn't quite where we wanted it, so we countered again, right? And our counter was very, very realistic given how the negotiation had gone so far, right? That seller's agent decided to counter one more time over less than $1,000 worth of stuff. Okay. And I said, this is crazy. And in my head, right? Like, you should not have done that, is what I was thinking. Yeah. And my clients, just like they should have done, this was the right move, they rejected it.
Yeah.
And that agent couldn't believe it. She was absolutely beside herself.
Yeah.
You mean they're going to reject this offer over that small amount of money? And my answer was, it wasn't about that. You left the window open for them to think about it, and you didn't what they rejected was something that offset a fear that they already had about the house.
Yeah.
It was a home warranty is what it was.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They lost the deal over the home warranty and the house has a 22-year-old HVAC system.
Yeah.
Pretty good reason to have a home warranty rather than us ask you to replace a $12,000 unit.
Well, I feel like...
But they left the door open. That's the key.
And here's the thing. That agent could say, I can't believe you guys are letting this go over something as little as $1,000.
And I can say exactly the same thing.
That's what you did. Yep. You did that.
Exactly.
You could have taken it where it was, but you risked losing it over $1,000. And now guess what? You lost it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not reading the room. It's not reading the market.
The house had been on the market for 30 days or 32 days, something like that. They'd already dropped the price $50,000 in that span of time. The house is basically empty. I think they have someone house sitting it basically.
Wow.
And it's like, that was not a smart move. This thing could be done.
Yeah. Man.
But
we have absolutely annihilated our time in market movers and headlines.
Yep.
And I think from a timeline standpoint, it's time for us to go to This Is Real.
Yeah, let's do it. Is that a painting or is that
That's Bozo.
Is it a TV?
No, that's a painting. I can't see the painting on the far wall over the white credenza there. What is that?
Oh, I actually know that painting. I know exactly what that is.
I do love art of musicians. In my studio, quote unquote studio, in my bonus room, I'm trying to collect pictures and paintings of people performing music. I'm down with that.
I got to be honest. I have no problem with this picture.
I don't know, man. People have problems with clowns.
Yeah, I get that. You're right.
The house looks pretty cool. The rafters, the
paneling,
the beams and everything, the stone fireplace, the floor, everything looks great. I do think they could maybe just remove that unless it's painted directly onto the wood above the mantle.
Here's what I like about this picture, okay? And again, I don't really have a problem with this, but here's what I like about it. The lighting is good. The wood textures are good. The angle perspective is right. They've decluttered it. You would make the argument that it's not exactly depersonalized, and I get that. That's fine.
I mean, maybe that's a self-portrait.
Could be. Maybe he's a Shriner. No, I have no problem with this.
I'm glad that you don't.
This is the best real estate picture you've ever used for This Is Real, Trent. Nice. Yeah. Yeah. All right, cool. All right, let's go pro tip. And I'm going to go real fast on this. All right, so second part of the questions that we had the other day, the one that we just beat to a bloody pulp. As we get closer to school, is it too late for you to move? And the thought process behind this is that July starts to slow down. August is typically very slow, right? Seasonality. And it's because people go back to school. The answer to that question is a resounding no, it is not too late. In fact, what you see right now is people have pulled some houses off the market because they didn't get it sold, right? And they're like, fine, we'll just stay. And maybe they have the plan to relist that house in November or something to try to make the move over Christmas break. You see that happening. But you also see the houses that didn't get sold, the ones that didn't get picked, the bridesmaids, if you will, okay, that are still great houses. For whatever reason, they didn't get picked, and they're still on the market because those people still want to sell. So they're saying, no, we really do want to sell this house. And so this is your chance, buyers, if you've been waiting for the chance to get the best deal, right? And maybe the exact house doesn't matter too much to you. This is it. This is when the iron is hot. So not only is August hot, that iron is hot. You need to strike right now.
You've heard me so many times say I despise the phrase "marry the house, date the rape." This is a time where that might make sense. Mm-hmm. This is a market where you can truly take advantage of the market conditions and a little bit of a higher rate in exchange for a much better deal on the house. Could lead you into a position where you could buy a house now, refinance it when rates come back around.
Which we're not going to say when that's going to be.
Can't say when it's going to be. We can't say that it's going to happen
ever.
But there's a higher likelihood if you buy a house and your rate's 6.8, your rate's 7%, your rate's 6.6. There's a higher likelihood of you being able to refinance than if you were to buy a house and your rate is 6%
or 5.25 or whatever. Yeah.
Right, because it's just how rates are moving. We don't. There's nobody really saying that calling for rates to get back into the low fives, but it wouldn't be ridiculous to think that we can get rates back into the low sixes or maybe even the high fives, and that's when you strike with your discount points. So maybe you don't get really aggressive with buying the rate down now. You kind of take the market rate, you hang on to your cash so that when it's refi time, you can really hammer that rate down.
And you invest that cash into something that's yielding a decent amount of money right now, and you're even more prepared.
It's liquid so that when the market drops on interest rates, you're able to squeeze the trigger on the refi and really buy the rate down at that point.
That's it. Don't wait. This is a great time.
Strategery.
What is it? Don't delay. Act now. Supplies are running out. All right. What's next?
I think that's it.
Was that it? Was that the end? Okay.
Yeah,
hey, Blue Raider fans, I'm wearing my blue today. Blue Raider Blitz, last stop of the tour today at Cedar Glade, starts at 5:30. Coaches, we got live music from Lost Swamp Monsters. We've got trivia. We got all kinds of fun stuff. All things Blue Raiders going on. Look, man, it's your hometown team.
Let's go.
Just show up. Come on, it's gonna be a good time. We're gonna have a party. It's going to be great. We got 1811 pizza. We got great beer. And just be around more of your hometown people. It's going to be great.
Let's go.
All right. Good stuff.
Just like you guys sat around for...
Thank you for listening to another episode of This Week in Real Estate with Jonathan Harmon and Bryan Nail, your go-to resource for all things real estate in Middle Tennessee. Be sure to like, share, follow, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. We will see y'all on the next one.
Now for the nitty-gritty. Primis Mortgage Company is a subsidiary of Primis Bank, a member FDIC. Primis Mortgage NMLS number 1894879, BK number 1042893, ML number 1894879. As always, all loans are subject to credit approval and product guidelines. Equal housing lender.